Fines, arrests, and prison sentences. They are being used in annexed Crimea for discussions about the Kerch Bridge, which became a military target during Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russian security forces have launched a comprehensive system of anti-extremist persecution in Crimea, which human rights activists call repression and a means of intimidation of the population. Crimea.Realities explains what's happening. While Crimea is annexed by Russia, the Crimean Bridge serves as the main logistical artery between them. The prospect of its destruction began to be actively discussed after Russia used it to transport military supplies and personnel to the Ukrainian front. The fate of the Kerch Bridge during the military conflict between Ukraine and Russia is being actively discussed by global media, politicians, military personnel, and activists. It's also being discussed in Crimea, but the topic is unwelcome for local Russian authorities there, as it could lead to criminal prosecution. Opinions that the Kerch Bridge should be destroyed have become so widespread on the peninsula that they have attracted the attention of Russian security forces. Crimea has been engulfed in a wave of persecution for statements about this bridge. As a rule, Russian security forces invoke Section 2 of Article 205.2 of the Russian Criminal Code, public calls to commit terrorist activity via the internet, for such public statements about the Kerch Bridge. This article carries a penalty of up to 5 years in prison. Russian security forces regularly detain Crimeans on such charges. Similar cases are recorded in various regions of the peninsula. In July, the Russian prosecutor's office in Crimea approved an indictment under this article against a 53-year-old resident of the Sovietsky district. He is accused of posting comments on social media calling for the destruction of the Kerch Bridge. Security forces are also pursuing a Sevastopol resident for calling for attacks on the Kerch Bridge in a Telegram message. The man created several accounts from which he justified drone attacks on Moscow and called for and publicly endorsed missile strikes on the peninsula, the security forces said in a statement. 2 residents of the Zelenski district were previously arrested on the same charges. Law enforcement officers visited one of them in July and the other in September. The latter allegedly administered a Telegram channel with materials justifying the bombing of the Kerch Bridge. Criminal cases have been opened against both. This is how the occupiers punish even for words. The Ukrainian Center for National Resistance emphasizes. In September, FSB officers detained a 22-year-old resident of Sevastopol on suspicion of inciting terrorist activity and justifying terrorism. On social media, he called for a missile strike on the Crimean Bridge, as well as for violent actions against Russian citizens. Using an account with a pseudonym didn't help, the FSB's Crimean headquarters stated. The Crimean Tatar Resource Center called the detention illegal and strongly condemned it. The defendants' position is unknown, as is whether they have the means to effectively defend themselves in court. Against this backdrop, Ukrainian developers have created the game Bridge Hunter, in which players can destroy the Kerch Bridge using various weapons. The game is available on Steam and has already attracted the attention of Russian propaganda outlets. This suggests that it could also serve as grounds for persecuting Crimeans. Accusations of extremism and terrorism are a common tactic used by the Russian government to pressure those it deems undesirable. According to the Ukrainian human rights organization Zmina Human Rights Center, the organization cited the September arrest of 48-year-old Nikolai Semiletov from the village of Izumrudnoy in the Zelenski district as an example of this practice. He was accused of calling on social media for the destruction of the Kerch Bridge and the murder of Russian citizens and political figures. Ukrainian human rights activists previously studied the judicial practice of persecution for pro-Ukrainian views in Crimea and concluded that the fight against Nazi and extremist propaganda is used in the occupied territories as a formal pretext and is applied for any manifestation of sympathy for Ukraine.
Ukraine's foreign minister said on Monday that Ukraine is working closely with the US and European allies to accelerate the delivery of air defense systems and help withstand Russian strikes on the energy sector during the winter months. According to Associated Press, speaking at a joint news conference with his Estonian counterpart, Andriy Sybiha stressed the importance of receiving at least 10 Patriot systems as soon as possible. He added that air defense was a key issue discussed during talks between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Donald Trump. On his part, Estonia's Margus Tsahkna emphasized the importance of weakening Russia's economy through sanctions and tariffs. "We see that Russia is a weak country, facing economic problems. I think President Trump is right to call Russia a paper tiger, but we need to work together to maintain the pressure," Tsahkna said.
If no, which protocol do you have for such circumstances?
We are cooperating very closely with UK. We are cooperating very closely with President Trump, who has put the sanctions on 2 Russian oil and energy companies. It's all together will hit heavily Russian war machine. And also we called already European Commission to prepare the next 20th sanction package, which is in process, to do it as quick as possible. And we see that Russia is a weak country economically, has problems. I think that President Trump has a right position to call Russia as a paper tiger, but we need to work together to find the pressure as well together with the third countries to join these sanctions and tariffs, as I do hope that the European Union can use as well as an opportunity for the next future.
Take 2 very brief questions, starting with Delphi, Christopher Muraveyski.
Для того, щоб захистити перед зимою наші стратегічні енергооб'єкти, нам потрібні додаткові системи протиповітряної оборони. І безумовно, що це питання було в фокусі перемовин президента Зеленського, як з президентом Трампом, так і з іншими європейськими лідерами. Ми дуже сподіваємося, що наповнення програми Pearls допоможе нам придбати додаткові системи Patriot в американської сторони, тому що це одна з тих небагатьох систем, яка справді ефективно може збивати балістичні ракети. Наш запит зараз як мінімум 10 систем, які нам потрібні вже зараз, і не лише ці системи, а й інші. І ми зараз активно працюємо з нашими союзниками щодо прискорення постачання різного виду систем ППО цьогоріч, ще до кінця цього року.